I feel like I have to explain myself a little bit because I went straight into our first episode without introducing myself or introducing the podcast entirely. And there's a reason for that. Actually, I recorded a full episode and I was like, hold on a minute. That's not my title. I recorded it, okay? So I was like, ah, la, 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 this is the la, la, la. And then afterwards, after I was done, I was like, oh my gosh, I said the wrong title. So basically, dinelete ko yung introduction. And here I am now on the second episode. And you guys don't know who I am and what this podcast is about. So I feel like, again, I have to explain myself. Hi, I'm Dani Mortel. And this is Sunset Hour. Just to give you a gist, Sunset Hour is my favorite time of day. And if you look at the description of this podcast, you'll see it there. I don't want to teach you anything because you have a mind of your own, and I don't feel like I'm in the place at all to teach anybody anything, right? There are professionals for that. This podcast is meant to be a safe space for our minds. Yes, yours and mine. Because I wanted a safe space to be able to think whatever they want to think without judgment, without editing ourselves. Of course, I can edit myself after I record the podcast. But the point is, while I'm speaking into the microphone and talking to you guys, or talking to myself actually, I'm not editing myself. I do have an outline, but things come up in my mind. I suddenly think of something, a thought, a memory or whatever, and I want to blurt it out. And I should be able to do that because this is my podcast. But anyway, that is Sunset Hour, and I hope that you find the peace, you find the safe space here as well. If you're watching this on video, it's actually almost sunset hour. No, it's not almost sunset hour, but you'll see the light change as we go along, and I think that's beautiful because wala lang, sakto lang sa sunset hour. Just pinagtatagpi-tagpi ko lang lahat. Anyway, I woke up with a freaking stiff neck today. It wasn't nice, okay? It hurt. And before I forget, yes, I do have a special guest on the pod today. His name is Bowie Balthazar, and he's right here. Bowie, say hi to everybody. Say hi. Okay. He's a little snobbish, but he's the best thing ever. Look at him. He's just so peaceful. So Bowie is my dog. For anybody who's listening, he's just right here. He is my security blanket. He is my protector. He's just the best. Anyway, I woke up with a bad stiff neck today. And actually, hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin siya. Pero, winarm compress ko na siya and everything. In-exercise ko na siya. I don't know what it is with me and stiff necks. Do you guys get stiff necks? Like, as often as I do? I get them, I don't know, once a month. Once a month minimum. Swerte na nga ako sa once a month eh. Feeling ko more than once a month. But like, I don't know. Is it my pillows? I've changed my pillows a couple times. Feel like it's our bed. Our bed frame. I don't know. Okay? But wala lang. I woke up with a stiff neck. And I woke up and I was like, oh no. I cannot move. Guess I'm not moving today. But I was like, no. I have to move. Because the thing with stiff necks is, the more that you baby them, the more that they'll stay. Deep yun. Lesson on life right there. The more that you baby yourself, the more you won't progress, the more you won't grow, the more you won't move forward. And another thing I learned, diba? Random talaga na tong podcast na to. Ganun talaga, pag sunset hour, diba kung ano-ano lang naman yung pag-uusapan nyo. It's like, you're shutting your brain off because it's 5 p.m. or, almost 5 p.m. or like 5:30, and you're telling your brain, okay, it's time to go home. If you're working at an office, it's time to clock out. If you're working from home, it's time to close my laptop. Goodbye, y'all. But anyway, so this is random. I learned that it's not that we lose motivation or that we lack motivation at all. It's just we're so motivated to do nothing. Why? Because our brain, in its natural capacity to protect us. It wants us to not be uncomfortable. So it always goes for what's comfortable, what's not scary, right? So going back to waking up with a stiff neck today, I was like, okay, so that means I'm not gonna move. But the thing is, you can hack your brain and tell it what exactly you're gonna do, even if it's not comfortable, okay? So I was like, no, you have to get up, you have to move, you have to do therapy for your neck, you have to. And I did it. And my husband came in because my husband has his whole routine, whole morning routine. Every day he does the exact same thing. He comes in the room, right? And he's like, hi, good morning. And I'm like, I woke up with a stiff neck. And he's like, oh, okay, so rest ka lang today. And I'm like, no. And he's like, no? Okay. And he just walks out of the room like nothing happened. His wife just told him she has a stiff neck, but she doesn't want him to do anything about it. But yes, I did a warm compress and everything was fine. And while I was doing a warm compress, I was watching a full episode of a podcast by Dr. Huberman, and it was so helpful. I want to talk about that more later on. Anyway, that was my morning. How are you all doing? Thank you so much for, listening to the first episode of the Sunset Hour with me, Dani Mortel. Hello again. Let's get to know each other better as we go along. I don't want to have to list, my credentials, if that even exists. My credentials or what I've been through. I feel like it's going to happen naturally and I don't have to tell you, okay, I'm this, I'm that, I did this, I did that. Like, you can stalk my Instagram if you'd like. The links are down below in the show notes. But if you're not interested in that, that's fine as well. If you just like listening to a random girl speaking to a microphone or talking to you while you're walking in the afternoon, or if you're listening to this in the morning, that's fine too. Or you're on your daily commute home or off to work, whatever, whenever, doing chores. Yes, if I'm the voice that you've chosen to listen to, I'm so thankful for you. Anyway, have you heard of the trend going around on social media right now? It's called I went to coffee with my younger self ... And I wanted to talk about it really quickly today because first of all, I saw that the original, the author of that poem, it's actually a poem, and the author was lost in translation and all of it. It's a good trend, right? It forces people to, reflect on where they are, where they're at right now, what they've been through already, and probably where they want to go. So it's a really good trend, right? But I wanted to read the original poem that started it all. It's actually by Jenny Cecilia, and it's part of her book Deep in My Feels. And I want to read more of her stuff, but this is the poem that started it all. It goes, I met my younger self for coffee at 10:15. She was late, I was early. I wore my dark brown hair in a slick back bun. Her hair was faded red and in her face. I had dark blue jeans on. She wore sweatpants with a few stains. She lets out a sigh and has a good cry. I tell her to release her feelings one at a time. The scars on her have now faded on me quite a bit. I want to tell her it won't always be like this. But I don't. She doesn't need to hear that things will be better. She just wants a hug and reassurance of her feelings during this uncertain season ahead of her. We leave the aroma of coffee beans and baked goods. I walk her home to our old neighborhood. We won't meet again for 15 more years. But each day she thinks of the woman who acknowledged her tears. I love that. So that's the original poem. And the things that we see online usually go like this. Let me just read, okay? So this is by Spencer Barbosa on TikTok. I met my younger self for coffee. She arrived 10 minutes early. I arrived right on time. She ordered a frap. I ordered an iced vanilla latte. She cried to me about having no friends. I cried with her because after 21 years, she finally found her besties. She told me she feels really lost and like she has no purpose. I told her she's full of purpose and has taught 10 million people how to love themselves. She thought about her weight every single second of every single day. I told her it's been 5 years since she stepped on a scale. She struggled to stay a size 4. I am confidently a size 8. I hope we meet for coffee again soon. Oh, diba? I like it. So the poem, basically people wrote their own thing for when they meet their younger self for coffee. And so may mga ganon, right? Pero meron din mga nakakatawa. Wait, I want to read to you this one by Trixie. Her handle is that girl Trixie on Instagram. And this is what she wrote. Tawa muna bago kwento. Okay, wait lang. She says, I met my younger self for coffee today. She was late because she had to finish a presentation. I was also late because same. She looked at me and said, wow, walang nagbago? I sipped my coffee and smirked. Hoy, at least mas mayaman ako sa'yo. She asked if we finally travel the world. I said we'll go places without buying during airfare promos. She rolled her eyes. Yabang nito? I shot back, Be, mas malaki ulo mo sa'kin, wag kang ano. I paid for her coffee, made her beso, and bid farewell. Daming satsat ang arte. Next time we see each other, tatampalin ko na to. I love it because, yun na nga, ang daming serious, right? Like, ang daming, oh yeah, really self-reflective. And then you get those entries where it's like, what? Real talk lang. And I mean, I really can see people's personalities through this trend. It's like, oh, there are people who, don't take it or don't take themselves too seriously. And I love that. And I feel like that's something that I want to sort of practice or try naman for myself because I feel like I take myself so seriously. A lot of times, I'm like, oh, do better or like, oh, be perfect. Alam mo yun. But that's not how life is supposed to be about, right? Anyway, if I want to share with you my version or my entry for that. I didn't actually write it. So let's go free flow, right? So it usually starts, I met my younger self for coffee today. Let's add an age to that. I met my 16-year-old self for coffee today, but that doesn't really make sense. Okay, fine, sure. She won't have coffee, obviously. She'll have a matcha drink or something. But that also has caffeine. So I'm not gonna let her have See my thought process here. She's probably gonna have a, what do you call this? A mocha or something. Okay, fine. So I met my 16-year-old self for coffee today. I ordered a dirty horchata and she got a how about a Milo dinosaur? Milo dinosaurs are good. I love them. Even to this day, they're amazing. Anyway, so that's that's the order. And then it goes, ano ba yung after nun? This is, walang kwenta tong entry ko, diba? Ayan, or like, if she was late and then if I was early, right? Oh no, she ain't late. She's anxious. Wait, would she be late at 16? Where was I at 16? No, she'd be on time. She was on time. Right? She was on time and I was 15 minutes early. I like being 15 minutes early. That's punctual for me. Okay, ulitin natin. I met my 16-year-old self for coffee today. She was on time. I was 15 minutes early. Punctual. She ordered a Milo dinosaur and I got a dirty horchata. I wonder what cafe sells both of those together. She asked me how I was. And I told her, ito, I'm baking. Ito, I bake now. And she's like, what? Ganon. That's a whole conversation that's gonna go on. Promise. Because me at 16, guys, no, I will not. I would never step in the kitchen and think to myself, oh, I want to bake someday. Never, never, ever, ever. And me now, I bake breads. This household only knows fresh bread. So I tell her, Yeah, I bake now. I'm on my way to making my first ever sourdough bread. I've made focaccia. I've made ciabatta. I have made pandesal. You know, easy stuff. And she'd be like, wow, girl, good on you. Are you still, doing commercials? Because my 16-year-old self would be doing commercials, lining up for auditions and, being fearful of rejection. And I'd be like, no, I don't do commercials anymore. I don't, because no. And she's like, why? And I'll tell her, well, you know, uh, I don't have to audition to get projects anymore. Wow, ang yaba. But yes, that's true. And that speaks volumes na about like how oh my gosh, yeah, now that I'm reflecting about it, this trend is actually really good. Because okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about doing commercials at 16, right? I started doing commercials at no, I started auditioning at probably 12 or 13, and I didn't get my first ever commercial until I was like 16 probably. 16 ba? Something like that. Sakto to my 16-year-old self. You got it, girl. But yeah, I got my first ever commercial then, and thinking about it now as a 28-year-old wife or just woman, okay? That's wild. And I went to probably like 20 plus auditions before I got my first ever commercial. And the amount of rejections you face, right? Going to auditions and putting yourself in rooms where you're like, oh my gosh, these girls are taller, prettier, things that you tell yourself as a teenager. And you're like, well then, I don't know what to do with myself, and all the insecurities come pouring in, and you're like, I have to go on a diet. I have to stop eating this. I have to exercise. I have to, stuff like that. That's very real. That is so real in a teenager's life. And if I get to, really sit down with my younger self, I'll tell her that doesn't matter at all. Okay? That doesn't matter. Eat your donut. Do you want a croissant? I'll get you a croissant. You want another Milo dinosaur? I'll get you that, girl. No worries at all. Me, as a 28-year-old woman, I really value, biglang naging seryoso. Because no, this is so real. I really value, me and my husband, we really prioritize our health and our wellness. And actually, that's the podcast that I was listening to this morning. It was of Dr. Huberman and Dr. Stacy Sims. And they talked about female specific exercise and nutrition for health, performance, and longevity. And it was a 2-hour long podcast. And I kid you not, I finished it, played it, yung playback ko 1.25 na nobody's ever gonna know. But the point is, I finished the podcast because it was such an interesting listen. And when you're a teenager at 16, right? Nobody tells you about these things. Nobody teaches you, at least in my back in the day. Wow, kala mo naman. No, but back in the day, of course, sino ba yung magsasabi sa atin noon na yeah, you need protein, right? Eat as much protein as you can because your body needs it. You're an active girl, you play sports, you need fuel. Food is not the enemy, it's fuel for your body, and you literally need it to function. It wasn't like that before. But now, as a 28-year-old woman, that's what I want to tell my 16-year-old self. Yun lang talaga. That's a whole conversation. Food is not the enemy, food is fuel. Keep working out, keep doing sports, never quit football, because look at where I am now. I'm 28 and I'm still, training. I'm doing football training more than I've ever done before, even as a teenager. And I'm still good at it, right? I'm still good at it. So, yung mga misconceptions natin as a younger kid, or as our teenage selves, I really want to get to talk to her about that. Anyway, so there, that's wala kwentang entry. Ano pa ba? I'll tell her, if she asks me, kamusta ba kayo? Kamusta ka na now? Anong ganap mo? I'll tell her, yeah, I'm married. I'm happily married. I have a beautiful husband and a beautiful dog. Look at this dog right here. We live comfortably. We travel whenever we want to. And when we're comfortable to travel, we like our routines. I cook a lot, I bake, I play sports, I work out, we things like that. It's so simple. I want to tell her, yeah, you're doing pretty well. Don't worry about it. I feel like my 16-year-old self worried a lot. She was always, fixated on the future. Like, where will I be at 21 and then at 25 and then oh my gosh, my 16-year-old self, she had a list. She probably had a list of, hey, this, at 18, I'm this. At 21, I'm this. At 24, 20, she had a list. And now, as a 28-year-old woman, I don't have a list. The only list I have nowadays is for groceries. I have a grocery list and we abide by our grocery list. That's a list. That's the list that I need right now. But of course, like to-do lists, I have those. When you look into my journal, please don't, but if you look at my journal, you'll see I have goals, right? But what I realized really at 28, and I'm speaking like I'm 40, I'm really excited to be 40, but what I realized at 28 is nothing matters. Nothing really matters. Seriously, it's like you live today and that's what matters. And I think that's what Sunset Hour is about too. This project of mine, originally I wanted to be, me and Josh, me and my husband. But I realized that I wanted it to be my project because I don't know. I don't want to prove anything to anyone. I don't want to prove myself anything. It's just, again, what I said kanina. It's just supposed to be a safe space for our minds. And I think that's what it's doing for me right now. Really. Really. So yeah, going back to the trend, let me just ask you the question. If you were to meet yourself for coffee today or tomorrow or whenever, right? How would the conversation go? Think about it. That's our journal prompt for today. And promise I'm going to write a proper one and then get back to you on the third episode probably. But yeah, let me know if you ever want any guests on the podcast. Or yeah, for sure Josh will be here sooner than later. Topics that you want to talk about. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you giving me a follow, giving this podcast a like or a rating. Thank you so much in advance. Sharing this with your friends and family, those things, I really appreciate those things. But yeah, that's it for me. Again, the question of the day is, if you were to go out with your younger self for coffee, how would the conversation go? Let me know in the comments. If you want to share your answers in the comments, please, please, please. And then we'll read it in the next episode. But yes, that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Always remember, it's going to be good. Bye.